It seemed like a genuine
Yeah,
comment, so
and I thought,
I took it like a genuine comment.
yeah, it seemed like it deserved a genuine reply.
Yeah.
I'm going to start recording on
Yeah.
my end,
Okay,
Jake.
I'll do that too.
And 3, 2, 1, go. There we go. Is it looking
Whoa,
good?
whoa,
It's
whoa!
looking good. I got the comment sound. Sound of a comment. Ooh,
Boing.
boing. Now, hello everyone. Welcome to the
Good
pouch.
morning.
Getting all my notifications on my phone that we're live, which is exciting.
Congratulations.
I'm excited.
Mm.
We could probably, Jake, launch almost straight into it this morning. Believe it or
Yeah.
not. I know you've been messed around, Jake.
I have a slight case of the hiccups,
You have, yes.
but I'll work through it.
Look, if it's anything like our sneeze video, Jake, which now has well over 1,500 views. And in fact, when you go to our YouTube channel and you have a look at the analytics, as I often like to do, and you have a look at the top 3 searched terms which lead people to our videos, in the following order they are sneezing fit, sneezing on air, and blooper reel.
Nice.
They are the top 3 things that lead people to our channel.
Fantastic.
So I think, if we
we need more sneeze content. That is clearly tells me.
That's what I'm going for,
Sneeze
Jake.
hiccup.
So don't hold back on the hiccups.
Yeah.
Because
They're pretty
we could essentially just have a sneezing fit. Yeah, blooper reel, sneezing fits, coughing fits, hiccups. That's what the people want.
Yeah. No, they're pretty silent, unfortunately.
Well, we need them louder.
I'll endeavour
Jake.
to emphasise them.
Don't hold back is my point.
Yeah.
Don't hold back is my point. Yes, but yes, welcome to the pouch. We're going to get into this one.
We did have
some hiccups this morning. We had some hiccups.
Literal as well as they're both literal.
Literal, yep, as well as metaphorical hiccups.
FYI, I've got 2 stories in the warm up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I like 2 stories in the warm up. People love the warm up.
The second one has has more news to it since yesterday, when the person of interest gave their 100th press conference in a row.
Okay.
Not that we're announcing who that is, because we haven't started the show yet.
No, of course not. We got to let the people be on edge, Jake.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go with I want to know. Oh yeah, hang on. I've got it. I want to know.
No, that's good.
No, it's not good. It's not good. I'm going to do this.
I've even got an answer for it.
I want to. Well, I'll ask you that during the show. How's that?
Because I was actually thinking. I was thinking of a joke. I was thinking of a way to. Oh, maybe I've got it in the joke to story 1 at the headline. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. There you go. That's the other one. Okay. All right. You ready?
Oh,
Are the viewers ready?
The viewers are ready.
Are the one?
What the hell we're talking about?
I don't know what this means, but on Facebook, someone said Uncle Rupert is watching. It's from Idiot Box. Anyway, I'm going to add it to the broadcast just because I can.
Not Uncle Rupert.
Uncle Rupert is watching.
We were just talking about Uncle Rupert.
We were.
Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd had some choice words to say about Uncle Rupert wanting to launch a royal commission into the Murdochracy.
Well, isn't it interesting that the name Rupert really hasn't taken off, considering he's one of the bigger, the larger than life figures of our time?
Yeah, I would say not I mean, it's not necessarily like unless you're in the fold. Most people are fearful of him.
Yeah, that's right.
Because there's always the chance that because there was that thing a couple of years ago where on Q&A somebody asked a genuine pointed question, but it was it was a heavy question of a politician, of a very conservative politician, and he was savaged in the Murdoch papers.
Yeah.
For a week straight. And it's a dude who's, I can't remember whether he was on welfare or just low income, and he was talking about how hard it is for him just to do anything, let alone to spend a couple of bucks to take his son to the movies or whatever it was. Yeah. And he got savaged. So, it just goes to show you can't have opinions around Senor Murdoch.
You can't, and I'd love the idea of like a mum or a dad just saying like, why Rupert? Well, we just love Rupert Murdoch. He's just so great.
I love that.
He's just so wonderful.
Well, maybe
contributes.
It's in his favour.
All right. Speaking of Rupert.
Yeah, Rubot.
The pouch is for sale, Rupert. At the right price. Hello, and welcome to The Pouch, the podcast equivalent of pork barrel left out in the sun that takes a not-so-serious look at the week in Australian news and politics. I'm Greg, whose idea was it to do a video podcast, Savage?
And I'm Jake, modern monetary theory, more like rotten monetary theory. On today's episode, we look at making jobs, cutting tax, and a seat at the OECD table, and so much more.
I've heard the chairs at the OECD table are very, very comfortable, Jake. And so while we're as snug as a bug in this proverbial rug, I want to know when you're going to be creating some new humans on the advice of our lovely treasurer.
There's just so many ways to go with that question, Greg. Look, I'm gonna go with I'm entrusting that now to the future generations within my family. I'm out of the task.
You're going to encourage it. You're going to be one of those people who have like 15 grandchildren or something, yeah?
Well, I can assure you, I have no capacity to make any more children. So I'm out. I'm done. I'm absolved of that responsibility.
Well, Jake, some of our viewers might be disappointed to hear that. Now, a little bit of feedback, Jake.
Yeah.
We did receive a little bit of feedback.
Sorry, I'll turn my mic down.
One was badum ching. We did the daily shows, which we encourage you to go back and check it out. You can sort of pick those up and have a listen to those. They're not necessarily too topical that you'll miss out on too much. So go back and check those out. We had a wonderful week. Now you and I had fun, Jake.
We did.
However, Nick 9642 on iTunes did not have a good time.
Right.
With that. In fact, he gave us a 1-star rating.
Okay.
And he said, daily shows aren't working, poorly prepared, poorly edited, guests have nothing to add to the topics. I listen to this show because I want more than FM radio chat and games stick to once a week. Well, Nick, good news. We're doing the weekly shows for you, Nick.
Yeah, just for you.
But we do, look, we do promise people that we'll read out their feedback. So there you go, Nick. Yeah. You get that one.
You do.
Now, to balance that out, we did get 5 stars. People either give 1 star or 5 stars, by the way. Yeah. 1 star, that's right. I didn't think the daily shows deserved 1 star.
No, I know.
Just like 1 star is pretty poor. Anyway,
I wonder whether it was one particular episode that they listened to that they just didn't enjoy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the one with me talking. Who knows? Who's this one? Gatty. Good political chat for non-political folk. It says nice flow between the hosts, Jake.
That's great. What a great comment.
Yeah.
Nick, you got something to learn from.
Look, I appreciate the feedback, Nick, and I couldn't agree with you more on a couple of those points as well. But we learnt a lot as well. And I did get an email from someone, and they basically said, great work with the daily podcast, and just sent a whole bunch of thumbs up. So that was nice.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I got to say, I experienced somewhat of separation anxiety this week. Particularly on Monday afternoon, when I wasn't talking to Greg.
It was bizarre, wasn't it? It feels like so long between episodes now because anyway. Ji Wang is on the chat. He says, is it cool if I jump on the stream?
Oh, it's so cool. Not only is it cool, it's encouraged.
It is encouraged. It is encouraged.
Yeah, exactly. Should we jump into a couple of warm-ups?
Yeah, let's do some warm-ups, Jake.
Let's do some warm-ups, some star jumps.
Beechworth Brewer designs florally pink beer to help raise money for Regional Cancer Centre. Yes. There's a lot of words in there that I like, and a couple that I don't.
Yeah, as a sentence, it flows a bit clunky, but I'm with you. But yes, two Victorian breweries from Beechworth and Albury have collabed. They've created a collab to create a special craft beer, pink, a florally pink beer. The beer is made using hibiscus flowers to change the colour to pink and slightly alter the flavour. A percentage of every litre sold.
Every litre sold. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
We'll go to the Albury Wodonga Regional Cancer Centre, which is great.
That is great. That's very kind. All right. So that's very lovely. That's very nice. It's a good thing to be doing. Is it a lockdown thing or is it a...
No, it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be just a general altruistic type of thing that they've done.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Well, this is on the ABC. Goulburn Murray by Michaela Ortolan. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Pink beer. I can't see any pictures of it, so they're obviously not too proud of it, but that's all right. It's the thought that counts. I was going to bring up a picture of it on the screen, but there's no pictures available yet. How funny. Yeah, okay. Well, that sounds delicious. Feel free to send us some, and we'll try it on air.
Yeah, we'll try it on air.
Review it.
Or at least Greg will try it on air, and I'll live vicariously through Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Jake. Well, that's exciting. That's very good news. And on the other warm up, is this the Daniel Andrews?
Yeah. So he's had his 101st birthday. He's his 101st not birthday, but 101st occasion of live what do you call it? Video broadcast of his of his coronavirus.
Every day, Jake. I watch it every single gosh darn day. It's like a ritual, you know. We light candles, we sing hymns, we wait for him to come out, we all applaud.
Yeah. I got to wonder whether after the end of this pandemic, whether Victorians are going to experience the same type of separation anxiety that I did earlier this week in not doing the Daily Show. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Unfortunately, he didn't have super great news for metropolitan Melburnians in that he wasn't able to essentially announce what he had hoped, which was an end to stage 4 lockdowns over a certain period. Unfortunately, the numbers of coronavirus in the metropolitan population has stayed pretty steady. It dipped below double digits for a couple of days, and then it bobbed back above towards the beginning of this week, and have pretty well stayed around the 12 to 15 mark every day.
Yeah.
So. And of course, the goal that they're aiming for is 5, or an average of 5 cases or lower for 14 days, which they've not achieved, unfortunately.
No, they haven't achieved it. And you know what? It was funny because New South Wales sort of hovered around that 12, 13 mark for quite some time before dropping right back down. And we were able to they were started to relax some of the restrictions that we were experiencing at around that 12 to 13 mark.
Yeah.
So as much as I suppose New South Wales could be held up in some regards as a model for what to do in this situation, it really is a challenge because obviously Victoria is not following that same path. So
I think the chief health officer of Victoria did remark that the one thing that's holding them back at this stage
Yes.
is stronger tracing efforts. So essentially, they've gone around Australia, around to the states to view, to take learnings, etc., to
Yeah.
model the other states how they're doing their individual contact tracing efforts, and they're hoping to adopt those back in Victoria. So, one might hope that once that's up to scratch, at this stage it's not, but one might hope that once it's up to scratch, that they might have a better opportunity to lift restrictions, even if those numbers are higher, even though they have set that, that goal of 5 or fewer cases.
That's right, and not as high. And this is just a side note. I know I do know, Jake and listeners, that we deal with Australian news and politics, not so seriously, but. How funny was it when when an XL glitch led to the 16,000 confirmed cases in one day in the UK?
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
I did not.
So funny. So while we're hovering around this 12 mark, anyway, apparently because of the limited number of cells that could be in one of the older XL programs, they stopped recording them at some point. They just didn't get recorded until they actually switched over to the new XL. In which case they had to add all of the ones that they didn't add in for the older XL, and they got this massive spike in one day of about 16,000 cases. So, funny but not funny. But yeah, anyway, let's just hover around that 12 mark, ladies and gentlemen. That doesn't seem to be too bad. It seems like we can contain it when it's around that mark. But I think New South Wales got up to that 12 mark the other day as well, and they've sort of put a bit of fear into us. Yeah.
Well, we in Queensland, we had this interesting case of a group of labourers, I believe it was, that turned up in Mackay, and I believe I can't recall whether they tested positive or whether they had just been discovered essentially to have lied about where they were previously, which was in Victoria.
Yes.
So there's a bit of tracing going on there as well at the moment. I'm not sure whether that increased the state average numbers. In fact, we've been pretty low, but cautiously watching what happens in New South Wales.
Okay. All right. Yes, we are. We are cautiously watching that, particularly those of us who are in New South Wales. We've been given a slap across the wrist about public transport and things like that. G Wang said seeing people
welcome
get racist.
Welcome to the stream, by the way, G.
Yeah, welcome to the stream. Seeing people get racist over this virus is ridiculous. Yes, G, it is ridiculous. Seeing people get racist over anything is ridiculous.
Yep.
Idiot Box said philanthropy comes in many colours and put a hibiscus. So I'm guessing that's about the thing. And wants to know if we can flog Regeneron. Yeah, absolutely, flog Regeneron.
I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not. Yeah, it was useful to see the President of the United States comments about Regeneron and how useful it was in his treatment. But I think we'll let the professional science individuals, scientists talk about Regeneron.
All right, Jake. Now, I didn't get my Nico out today, my felt pen, my permanent marker, whatever you want to call it. I was going to scroll it across my beautiful white cardigan, as you call it. I was going to put 3 big words on my shirt here, Jake. I was going to put spend, support, and stimulate. But it was the stimulate bit that got me. I didn't want to put that on my shirt and walk around. So everyone would be like, nah.
It's too many letters to put across your torso.
But that's the motto. That was the motto of our budget this week, Jake. And what an exciting week it was. I almost get more excited about the budget than any other sporting event that happens in Australia. It's just such a huge week, and somehow the media have convinced me that I am excited about it, that I should be excited about it, that I'm pumped about it, and I did, Jake. I got a little bit of excitement about me, and I benefited from it. So let's do a little bit of a talk about the budget, Jake, and let's talk about my beautiful tax cuts.
The thing is, there is so much to talk about here.
Okay.
There is. So I thought what we'd do is we'd split it out into a couple of stories. So probably the first story is just really the highlight reel. Story 2, I wanted to talk about income tax in general. Story 3, I wanted to talk about the new job maker and a little bit of that. Story 4, I want to talk a little bit about Labor's budget reply. And then finally want to talk about Matthias Cormann's new spot
Right.
in the OECD. But yeah, look.
Well, I'm setting a timer, Jake. I'm going to get my timer out here. How many stories have you got?
Podcast begins now.
How many have you got there?
5 stories.
All right, 5 stories. So let's go, what, 3 minutes each?
3 minutes each. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's no way I'm going to get it.
Okay, ready? Go. 3 minutes starts now. Go.
But yes, the government announced that they're back in black this week to attend the funeral of the premise of a budget surplus for some time to come, of course. Yes, the economy is set to shrink by 3.75% this calendar year, and then they're hoping that through stimulating through tax cuts and through their job maker scheme, which we'll talk about in a little bit, will then grow the economy by a massive 4.25%, an amount of growth that really hasn't been experienced for some time, and particularly hadn't been experienced well prior to the lead up to the coronavirus hitting us, but they're hoping essentially in the next year to hit that 4.25% growth.
Okay.
So yeah, the official unemployment rate is now forecast to peak at around 8% in December. That is disputed by a number of economists, mainly because we know that there are a great number of businesses that are these so-called zombie businesses, the ones that are essentially kept alive by JobKeeper.
The ones that are dead that don't know it.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. But yes, there's a million fewer people will live in Australia than previous forecasts, with Victoria to take the largest proportional population hit. That's around people who were, set to emigrate or immigrate to Australia, who were no longer planning to because essentially they're locked down, we're locked out. Hey, we're all locked down.
Yep.
Now, in terms of the overall budget, we're talking about a $213.7 billion budget deficit in 2020 to 2021, nearly halving next year, and then falling to $66.9 billion by 23-24. So,
okay, this is provided things go according to plan.
All of the gears need to be churning quite a lot. Now, the big numbers, the massive numbers here, net debt is going to be $703 billion in 2020 to 2021, i.e. our financial year at the moment, which is 36% of GDP.
Holy.
I should say massive countries like massive economies like Japan, they're running at 66% of their GDP. USA, I think they're running at around 112, but let's not go there. And it will 112, by the way, that's hyperbolic. I think it's a little bit less than that. But yes, and it will peak. It will peak at almost $1 trillion, almost a trillion for Australia. It'll peak at $966 billion in June 2024, which will be at that stage 44% of GDP. Now, the 10 biggest programs in this massive budget.
Is this the next one? Hang on, my timer's gone off. Is this the next one?
It's not the next one.
Well,
quick.
Quick.
The highlight reel. Instant asset write-offs have been expanded from your everyday run-of-the-mill businesses up to businesses with a turnover of like $5 billion. Like
Thank goodness, Jake. Thank goodness, because this podcast was right on the cusp there.
We need to incorporate. It means that businesses like Qantas, who are just under a turnover of $5 billion, will be able to instantly write off new assets like, I don't know, planes.
Yeah.
That's pretty massive. There'll be personal income, and sorry, I should say that segment of the budget, $26.7 billion. Personal income tax cuts, $17.8 billion. We'll go into that in a sec. JobKeeper payment extensions, which of course that's already been announced, but they're down. That's $15.6 billion. There's infrastructure money for states and territories, $6.7 billion. There's small and medium. This is an interesting one. Small and medium businesses are able to carry back their losses that were incurred, or carry forward losses essentially that were incurred up to June 30, 2022 to offset their profits that they've made previously, which is pretty cool. Up 4.9 billion. There's the new program JobMaker, which we'll talk about in a second, 4.6 billion.
Yep.
Pensioners and economic support payments, i.e. social services, 2.6 billion. Aging and aged care, 2 billion. Road safety and upgrades, 2 billion. And a really cool one, interesting one for universities who have, of course, been hit by their lack of international students. There's a new research and development tax incentive of $2 billion.
It's tidy, Jake. It's very tidy. All right.
Was that good?
It was good enough. Let's go again. Ready? Story 2. Income tax cuts. This is my favorite one, Jake. I'm getting one like tomorrow.
It's an interesting one. So, number one, and I probably want to start this one by saying the government has been selective about how they've represented this, and I'll go into a little bit of that in a second. But essentially, they've brought forward 2 years of tax cuts that were already legislated, but they were scheduled for two years into the future. And they brought them in not only to essentially be as part of this budget, but they brought them forward to be backdated to July 1 this year, essentially meaning that, hey, we've already got the tax cut. Yep,
it's already got. Now, this is only for a select few people, though, yes? This is for people in a higher bracket, like not the lower income earners, but the middle income earners.
So it hits so we have a progressive taxation system. So, there's if you're earning, say, $120,000 and there are 3 tax brackets, like 50,000, 0 to 50, 50 to 100, and then 100 to 150, you hit, you have to pay all the tax that you earned on that first 50,000 on that bracket, then the next 50,000 in the 50 to 100. Anyway, am I explaining that well? But we essentially,
I'm sure someone thinks so.
All of those tax brackets do get something in there.
Yes.
So all of the existing tax brackets do get something in there, but they are invariably targeted at that higher end for a couple of reasons, but chief among them, the very first lot of tax cuts, they, I would say proportionately impacted positively those in the lower income brackets more than those in the higher income brackets.
Roger.
So either way, it's all, I'll say balanced out to some extent. But it lifts the threshold for the 19% tax rate to $45,000 and the 32.5% threshold to $120,000. So essentially,
1 minute, Jake.
Here, while the government has essentially said there is one other major point that they've done as part of this is the third stage of the plan that was legislated for 2024. They're keeping to 24, which was essentially flattening the tax rate for everyone earning between 45,000 and 200,000. So that's right. Remaining.
What does that mean, flattening?
Essentially one rate, one bracket instead of multiple.
Oh, okay. So simplifying the tax.
That's what they like to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Impact just means that those on the higher end of the earning scale, pay less tax essentially.
Right. Okay.
But yes, so the government is banking on everyone spending their tax cuts to inject $12.5 billion into the economy over the next year. But the interesting thing here is that what the government has done is they have compared the tax changes that are legislated, that they've just put in, against the tax position, i.e. what you would have been taxed if you were earning your money in 2017, 2018. So they've said your tax is lower, and they've compared it not against last year's tax, but they've compared it against 2017, 18. Right? So essentially, it looks like on paper, you are getting a larger amount of tax back. Okay? Now, the reason that they've done that is twofold. Number one, it looks bigger. Hey, who doesn't love bigger numbers, right? But the other reason that they've done that is that is essentially the date, that is the area, that is the era before they put in the first lot. So essentially, it's comparable against it's comparable against a world when there were no tax cuts, Greg.
Okay.
So it was important, but essentially what that means is the thousands of dollars that you might have earned in tax refunds essentially are not necessarily going to increase significantly more than they did last year for most people.
Right, I see what you're saying.
H&R Block have said essentially what this equates to is that workers earning around $60,000 this financial year are expected to pay $2,160 less in tax, equating to about $41 a week. And someone earning $120,000 will pay $2,746 or 45 even, which is the equivalent of $52 a week less compared to 27. So anyway, it's just comparing tax changes with the tax position of a couple of years ago instead of last year, which is more comparable. The Grattan Institute, for example, has said the majority of workers will see their take-home pay increase by as little as about $20 a week. And millions, in fact, are likely to be waiting until next year, i.e. when you get your tax return, to get the most from the cuts. So while the government is saying, we're giving you more money now, for goodness sake, go out and spend it.
Yes.
Most people aren't actually going to get that money until June the 30th or July the 1st next year.
All right, and on that note too, Scott Pape, who is the barefoot investor guy, is actually encouraging people to save, and saying that that you should ignore the advice of Treasurer Josh Frydenberg to be patriotic and spend our way out of recession. He says that, what does he say? He said, basically just saving it is going to be better for you in the long run and better for the economy in the long run, rather than just going out and blowing it all now. So he's saying save. So it's not all written in stone.
Well, you might say he's walking the walk, of course, being a barefoot investor, saving his money on not paying for shoes.
Shoes, that's right. Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm not wearing shoes at the moment, Jack.
Well, neither am I.
In fact, I'm not telling you what I'm not wearing under there. Yeah. All right. Next one.
Next 3 minutes. I'm totally keeping to this.
Yeah. I'll set the timer tokenistically. Hang on. Well, there we go. 3 minutes, go.
This one I'll probably keep to, I hope. So, yes, part of the new budget announcement was that there is a brand spanking new program for jobs. We got Job Keeper, we got Job Seeker, we got Job Learner, whatever that one was.
Now, this was 1 million. This is trying to put 1 million people back to work.
Yeah, or at least it's trying to put 450,000 people who are currently on
in the 16 to 35 bracket.
Yeah, exactly. So it's that 16 to 35 bracket, which are looking at around 450,000 people who are right now on Job Seeker, and we're trying to get them a job. There is a huge amount of evidence, and sorry, I should have said the name of this program, Job Maker. It's Job Maker.
Job Maker.
So there is a huge amount of evidence to
suggest
suggest
like a kit
that...
I would buy my 6-year-old daughter for Christmas or something.
You want to play? Yeah.
Bead Maker and Job Maker. Yeah.
What we need is Pink Beer Maker. That's
the hibiscus.
That's the next program. So the big thing about this is there is a huge amount of evidence, and it's been there for a considerable amount of time that suggests that people who don't have a job at the start of their life, i.e. the start of their working life, are likely to fall into those systematic feedback loops of unemployment for the rest of their life. So it is, to the government's point, this is an incredibly important thing. Now, what a lot of the criticism that has been there is essentially this program has, been set up. It's going to pay. It's a hiring credit program. Essentially, it's going to encourage businesses to take on young workers, and it'll pay for $200 per week for those aged under 30 if you hire them, and $100 a week for those aged under 35. Yes. Yep. If you 30 to 35, I should say, if you hire them. And of course, new hires must work at least 20 hours a week to be eligible. Yep. And it's, as I said, it's estimated to support around 450 new jobs. But those jobs are likely to be, because of those 20 hours a week minimum, those jobs are likely to be that under underperformance. What's that term where you're working, half of the amount of time that you actually want to be working? What is it? Underemployment. That's what it's called.
Underemployment.
Underemployment. Not unemployment, but underemployment.
Yeah.
Essentially, it means that if you have one full-time worker right now that might be, I don't know, 36, choose your age bracket, but essentially over 35, you can fire that one full-time worker and hire two under 30s to work part-time and pocket $400. Now, that $400 can either be used to, of course, subsidize the wage of that individual, or those individuals, or it could be used to, feed back into the business to do other things, etc. So, it's on the face of it, it's a good program. There's been a lot of commentary about its execution, and essentially, I heard a lot of economists essentially state that it's legislated ageism.
That's right.
But who would have thought that 36 was something that you could raise a Fair Work ageism claim about?
Yeah. Well, I suppose the thing is, it feeds on, doesn't it? I mean, if you're starting to struggle to look for work at 36, that's not a good sign, And if you're starting to sort of lose hours, or if you're starting to lose work at 36 based on these particular programs, which are meant to encourage everyone to go out and work, and that's meant to be your prime earning time. That's meant to be your prime, your prime of life, really. Like, you're going, okay, I've got, I'm healthy, I'm fit, I've got money, I'm going to have some kids, all that sort of stuff. To discourage that and to sort of be looked down upon already while you're looking for work is not a great start. We know that the older generations are struggling to find that work, and that as soon as they see, what's the saying? As soon as they see grey hair, they basically just, discard your resume. To discourage people at 36 is not a great start to that sort of flow-on effect, I guess.
It is a really interesting one. And the other side of this is there was a huge amount of talking prior to the budget. In the lead up to the budget, you're listening for signals, right? You're listening for what is the Prime Minister, what is the Treasurer, what are they talking about now? And they're talking about, in the lead up to the budget, they were talking about how women are the most affected segment of the population, that those who are young and also women are getting the double hit, the double whammy. But generally speaking, that women over 45 are the most likely to be on JobSeeker. That was one of the statistics that that Josh Frydenberg talked about a week before the budget. So when we heard that, we were thinking, there's going to be these really great job programs for getting women back into work or back into the workplace. We're thinking childcare. We're thinking those big types of structural overhauls, but invariably there was not a lot in there for the disproportionately affected women in the budget. There was there was a part of the budget that was directed towards women. I think it was like $10 billion, but over $100 million over 10 years, so not significant. But yeah, women over 45 were the most likely to be on JobSeeker before the advent of COVID-19, and the budget does not offer them the same support to get back to work as younger workers whose employers are eligible for JobMaker credits.
Yeah, there's an article calling it the Blue Budget for Pink Recession by Shane Wright and Katina Curtis on the Sydney Morning Herald, and I just wanted to point out that pink recession because that's a phrase that's been sort of getting used a fair bit lately, accusing the government of excluding women specifically from the particularly the vulnerable women from the budget as well. Anyway, the pink recession is the word that has been that the name it's been given. It's affectionately known. I don't know if that's the right word.
No, you're absolutely right. But yeah, that's the end of that one. I'm good to move on to the budget, the right of reply.
Yes, let's do it. All right,
so stick 4 minutes for this one as well. 3 minutes rather.
Now, Jake, I'm in this situation. I'll play the role of Josh Frydenberg. So my budget is perfect. It's impeccable. It does everything it needs to do for the economy. It does everything for women. It does everything for men. It encourages people to even hire, younger apprenticeships, younger people in apprenticeships. It's perfect, Jake. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Prove me wrong.
Okay, I absolutely will. I I absolutely won't. I mean, this invariably the right of applied, the alternative budget presented by the opposition, regardless of who that opposition is it's essentially the opposition talking about the things that are big to the people who would elect them if they were the alternative government, and it's potentially pointing out things that they see as underinvestment or missing vision in the governments in whomever is the government in their pitch, in their budget, etc. It was quite interesting. I would say, right off the bat, as Anthony Albanese was beginning to announce the alternative budget, the Prime Minister did a press conference at exactly the same time and was talking about how his budget was, it was the perfect budget. Not necessarily those words, but it was the great budget.
It's the perfect budget.
And I would also note that Labor referred to the budget at the moment, and the state of the economy at the moment as the Morrison recession.
Oh.
And to which
nothing to do with the pandemic?
No, absolutely nothing. But look, this is a little bit of I would say tete-a-tete or tit for tat, a bit of retribution, you might say, because the so-called debt and deficit disaster of Labor, was a response to the global financial crisis.
Yeah.
And so this is a little bit of retribution. This is a little bit of snarkiness coming out in our leaders.
All right. So have at me. I'm Josh Frydenberg. Go. What's wrong with my budget?
In his budget replies speech, Anthony Albanese has changed tack from the "we will have policies before the next election" to "he have three policies."
Three policies. Yeah, that's good.
So the first policy, Labor is going to invest $20 billion to establish a government-owned entity to rewire the nation. It's called the Rewiring the Nation Corporation, and essentially it's being built to modernize the electricity grid, essentially to take more or significantly more renewables. Particularly because renewables often have sort of varied energy generation. Yes,
they do have varied. Just ask California.
Exactly. And this is really a plan to move the country from coal to renewables. Essentially, it's an NBN for electricity, if you like.
Right.
So it's a big move there. Policy number 2.
So it's terrible?
Well...
Jake, renewables are out. We're all about gas.
Yeah. You're totally right. But... that's not going to set us up for the future. So it is an interesting one. And of course, it was a major gap in the budget that there really wasn't a huge amount. There was, a bit of signalling towards renewables into the future in the lead up to the budget, but not a huge amount in terms of action and dollars on the ground. But yes, policy number 2, Labor will improve childcare subsidy with a boost of $6 billion. Albanese said the childcare system, quote, penalises the families it's meant to help because for millions of women, it's simply not worth working more than 3 days per week. And that's because the combination of tax and the cap on childcare subsidies can mean an extra day's care costs more than an average day's actual extra earnings. So they're saying they're going to scrap the $10,560 annual childcare subsidy cap. They're going to lift the maximum childcare subsidy rate to 90%. Wow. And they're going to increase childcare subsidy rates and taper them for every family earning less than $530K, which is obviously massive.
And I have heard this argument. I've heard the argument that if the government were actually serious about people having babies and wanting them to encourage them to produce little taxpayers, that they would encourage people to have those and be confident that there was going to be some sort of subsidy about childcare. But it just seems to be missing consistently.
Yep. No, you're right, and it's not as though it was there last time Labor was in power. So, it's not something that they've necessarily acted on previously. It's something that they're suggesting that they're going to act on now if they're elected into power next time. Right. Now, the third policy?
Yes.
Manufacturing.
I love manufacturing policies.
Yeah, so do they. So we could draw up, they're hoping to draw up a national rail manufacturing plan to encourage more trains to be built in Australia. They're going to
Yes.
devise a defense industry development strategy to leverage $270 billion in defense investments to develop Australia's sovereign industry. So essentially, we make stuff here instead of, we pay the French dudes to make our Collins-class submarines so that they can
Great.
sink really well. And the third item in there is to make a skills guarantee to give apprentices, trainees, and cadets work on Commonwealth projects, which would be huge. Enable essentially for apprentices to work on these Commonwealth projects instead of there just being, the big players, the Thies and the other ones.
Right. So that would mean so if I'm an apprentice, that I could be working on some of the larger what sort of projects like
major road projects. Well,
gas
potentially. For the 2 job in gas, yeah.
More than 2, Jake. It's more than 2.
Yeah.
In fact, it's 5 times that amount. Oh,
10.
Have you know? Yeah. Dear me.
So look, some interesting things in the opposition leader Anthony Albanese's reply.
Yes.
Obviously it means nothing.
Well, it does in a way. It doesn't. I mean, you've got to have that. You've got to have that. That idea that you know what you're getting in for at the next election, right? You know where their priorities are, and if they align with your priorities. And I know what you mean. It doesn't really mean that much because it doesn't really matter at the moment, but down the track, it very well could, depending on how all these initiatives go for the government. There's like you've said, there's a lot of criticisms out there. Unfortunately, for everyone who doesn't like Liberal, everyone's getting a bit of a tax cut. So,
so we're all happy.
It's hard to. Yeah,
Labor has endorsed those tax cuts, so they've enabled them to go straight through the House of Reps, straight through the Senate, and they're going to be signed into law.
That's right. There's no opposition to any of the policies, is there, from Labor about any of the initiatives?
Virtually none. It's more about adding nuance to them. Hey, can you tweak this here? Hey, can you? But essentially, the budget is the biggest budget of all time, right? The budget is absolutely enormous. Yeah. So the very fact that Labor is giving any sort of reply suggests that they maybe had these things in their back pocket, because I know that there wasn't a lot of time in between reading the budget, the actual budget papers, and getting that reply. So yeah, look, it's an interesting one.
Okay, all right. Now, Jake.
Yeah,
we're losing someone.
We are.
We're losing someone. Farewell to Matthias Cormann, the longest-serving finance minister in history.
Yeah.
What a credit. Get it? Leaves the Senate after 22 years at the end of October and will be nominated by Prime Minister Scott Morrison's government for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes. And it's for the Nobel Peace Prize. You tripped me up. That was very good. It's for the OECD's Secretary General position. Now it's a massive job. It requires a lot of finessing, a lot of finagling, you might say.
I do.
If you were butchering words.
Yep.
Interestingly enough, the current Secretary General, Angel Guerrera, did almost 150 interviews in member countries to win the prestigious position back in 2005. Right. So from Matthias Cormann, who during a glowing press conference this week from the Prime Minister and Minister Cormann, when they were announcing that he was leaving essentially at the end of, I think it's October, to essentially get over to Geneva to start the process. Yes, Minister Cormann said in this, or Senator Cormann even said, quote, "In these difficult times, the OECD is more important than ever." Quote, "To maximize the strength of economic recovery and jobs, to strengthen economic resilience, and to achieve sustainable growth in living standards, it would be a great honor to lead the OECD on behalf of these members. Now, interestingly enough, here there's a little bit of an opportunity for retribution here as well. The PM says that he's spoken to the opposition leader Anthony Albanese about the nomination, because of course you want these sorts of things to be bipartisan. I suggest from the home country of the nominee that there is bipartisan support for getting an Australian on this panel. But he spoke to Anthony Albanese about the nomination, and there is probably a really good chance that Albanese will support that, and that's despite some in Labor still hurting over the former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull's decision to not back former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd when he wanted to run for the United Nations Secretary General position back in 2016. So quite interesting. But he's unlikely to oppose Senator Cormann's candidacy. He's facing rivals from United States, Canada, and Estonia and Sweden.
All right, well that's easy. United States is out. No one wants to face anything from the United States at the moment. Canada, what are they doing? No one even knows. Well, I mean, what are their even coronavirus numbers? No one knows. No one even knows. No one knows whether to like Justin Trudeau or not. Estonia. Well,
who's even heard of that?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe there might be some tough competition there from Estonia and Sweden. No one likes Sweden at the moment because of coronavirus anyway.
Exactly.
Smug.
Well, unfortunately, the Swedes have nominated former European Trade Commissioner Celia Malmström. Is considered.
Well, you know what, Cecilia?
Stick
to Eurovision. All right. Stay in your lane.
Exactly. Eurovision only. No OECD Secretary General positions.
No, not for you. Not for you.
She is invariably considered to be the front runner at this moment. Simon Birmingham is going to step into he's the trade minister.
Step into the ring.
He's stepping into the finance minister's position, and Michaelia Cash is stepping into that deputy finance minister position.
Great. We're going to have a perfect government. No complaints.
A very well-rounded government.
All right, Jake. Well, speaking of well-rounded, let's try and attempt to have a well-rounded Sunday with our families.
I'm down with that.
Yeah.
My stepdaughter got married a couple of weeks ago, and we're having a family barbecue today to do.
Perfect.
Then I'm climbing up in a roof to put insulation in.
Oh, good.
All afternoon, which would be fantastic.
I've heard that always works out really well.
Exactly. Definitely no scratches on your back from nails that are protruding through the roof. What are you up to this weekend?
Not insulating. No, not insulating. Well, I've got to edit this. And I've promised my daughter, we run a YouTube channel for her that would do an unboxing. She had a birthday yesterday, so she's got a couple of toys there that she'd like to spend unboxing on the internet. So I'm going to do that with her as well. You're right.
I just said I'd love that idea.
Oh, yeah, it's a great idea. And so, I'll edit this, do that with her, edit that, upload that. Sounds pretty good. I'm a teacher, so I'm back to school tomorrow. So I'm sure I'll do some sort of schoolwork in between now and then. But that's it. All right, Jake. Well, once people have finished trying to decide whether or not you need qualifications to install insulation in their own houses, what would you like them to do?
Well, I wouldn't mind their tips on installing insulation, although it may be, unfortunately, a little bit too late. But yes, thank you, Greg. If the listeners could hit the subscribe button, rate and review us. Look, if you like the show, the only thing that we ask you to do is to rate and review us, because it really does. Or tell a friend. Tell a friend.
Change your 1-star rating, Nick.
Rate and review us, because it does help us get in front of the eyes of people around the world.
Absolutely. And if you'd love to share the love, you can do so by telling your friends, families, and foes to head to thepouchofthepodcast.com, where they can choose their favorite podcast player of choice and subscribe that way. Jake, enjoy the week. I don't know what we're going to do now that it's not budget week.
I know, right?
Can't talk about US politics. Can't talk about budgets. Gosh.
We just got to wait for the next pork barrel.
Hopefully something happens. Yeah. Look, there's been a fair few distractions. Did you see the photo of Scott Morrison doing the rounds on his chook pen the other week?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah,
isn't he great?
He is. I tell you what, I would not want to be Anthony Albanese going into the next election.
No, absolutely not. All right. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate your time. Oh, there's a news notification. What is it? No, nothing.
Daily Mail. Ugh.
Yeah, nothing. All right. Just
I
in
love
case we
your
missed
work,
something.
buddy.
All right. See you, man. Have a good weekend.